Okay. Kind of freaked me out. Okay.
I love the mom because it's freaking me out. Okay. So I don't know. That's a big ring thing. Can you hear me? Okay, good. And of course, when he went inside, he was like, who cares about that?
Yeah. So when you're saying that, oh, it's a lot of work, kind of reminded me of an interview I saw fairly recently of John Voight talking to Tucker Carlson. And apparently Tucker Carlson had asked him, you know, your career's been kind of up and down, you know, where are you now? And he said, well, you know where I was several years ago. He said, my wife was leaving me and my kids were unhappy with me and my career had tanked. He said, I found myself on the floor with my head in my hands, just kind of crying and going, it's so difficult. I said, and then I heard a voice. And there's nobody in the house but me. He said, I heard a voice and it said, it's supposed to be difficult. He said, and I went, I'm not alone. I said, and it turned my life around. I said, who knew that admitting that it was difficult was going to make that kind of difference? It's always difficult, but hey, you know, it's supposed to be difficult. It's like, we're going to have a good day today. This is interesting. So let's talk about the bracing blocking thing. So this is, you know, most of my teaching comes from the German methodology because that's what most of my training has been. I'm familiar with some of the French approach, but I don't use it very much. So when I reference things, and often I lay blame where it's due, I'll tell you who told me to do that. Because I'm not creative enough to come up with most of this stuff myself. So it's not a name dropping thing. It's I got this. This has verity to it because it came from someone who knows what they're doing. Okay, it came from, you know, someone who rode in the Olympics, either from Germany or the United States. So one of the things Germans like to get their horses really onto the outside rein is to really require them to bend around the inside leg. And that requires really both hands and both legs for the horse to really get the full information on that. And so ideally, when you're bending, and even on a 20-meter circle, you should feel softness. You should feel the horse's ribs yield to your inside leg. And your outside leg has to be back just a little bit to keep the haunches from sliding out. And then otherwise, you'll just make tangents. You'll just go, you know, short fat line, short fat line, short fat line, rather than bend around a curve or around a corner. Yeah, it takes two legs to create bend in a horse. And the inside leg needs to be near the girth because between the shoulders and the ribs is the easiest place for him to bend. If your inside leg wanders too far back, all you do is push the haunches out because the thoracic spine is not very mobile. Does that make sense? So then, once you have the horse listening to your inside leg, you want to find a steady connection on your outside rein, which requires your outside elbow to be very elastic so that you can keep the same feel in your outside rein all the time. And then your inside hand becomes what I like to call the chat line. It's where you chat with him, you talk with him about whether he's going to soften his jaw and whether he's going to stretch his neck down and come over his back and over his neck. So, most suppling, most softening, getting the horse to yield the jaw and the pull is done on a bending line, because when horses are bending, they're more easily convinced to let go and to soften. Okay, does that make sense? So, and feel free to jump in there. If I say something, you go, oh, I have no idea what that means. Or, I don't know where that came from, or can you explain that in a different way? I'm happy to do that. So yeah, so let's let him walk enough that he kind of loosens his muscles up a little bit. And be sure you walk at least once each direction so that both eyeballs get to check out everything. So I'm just going to kind of set the stage here for what we're going to do before we do a whole lot else. So he needs to warm up in the walk. And the interesting thing is people like, oh, 8 to 10 minutes is a pretty good walk warm up. And, in Texas in the summer, if he's normally out, he stood in the trailer for a while and then he was in a stall. So he might be a little stiff in the trailer ride. So we want to give him enough time to get the blood flowing through his muscles. And that's about that 8 to 10 minute stretch. Blood flow through the tendons and ligaments. The blood vessels and the capillaries and the tendons and ligaments are much smaller and more dispersed than they are in the muscles. So it takes longer, it takes closer to 15 minutes for there to be a sufficient blood flow through the tendons and ligaments for you to really feel safe with asking the horse to go in and do a whole lot of work. Which is not to say that you have to walk 15 minutes regardless. If he's out in his pasture and it's Texas summer, you can go get him and get on and walk, enough time for him to sort of go, oh, okay, I'm ready to work. And you can usually tell that because often horses will give a big sigh. You'll be walking along and he'll go, and that's kind of a horsey equivalent of, all right, I'm kind of bitten the bullet here and I know we're going to go to work. So sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's 10 minutes, sometimes they don't do it at all. But it's nice to observe that, and you've had him long enough and you've been running long enough that you probably observe a lot of things that he does anyway. So, and that's really important because that's a big part of being a horse person. Is just knowing inherently what is normal for your horse. Yeah, well, and especially if it's been dry, which it has been here, and the horses, in the barn horses, the shavings we have mostly almost like sawdust, and it's a little dusty. So pretty much every horse here, by the time you get on, you walk several laps each way, and then you start to trot. They're pretty much all going to cough at least once or twice, and then do that kind of finishing sneeze thing because they just, the dust kind of accumulates in their lungs. And once they start to use their abdominal muscles and start to go to work, squeezes the lungs, and the lungs go, oh, we got to get rid of this shit in here before we have to do any work. What a nice walk he has. It's really good. Well, and that's a really important observation. Because horses don't learn anything when they're not relaxed. You can make them do shit if they're tense, but they're not learning. It's not a positive experience. So we want to try to set him up so he can be successful. So he's like, oh, I got my mom. Oh, we're in a strange place, but she let me look, and I think we're okay. I don't know if Elaine told you, I just bought a horse about a month ago. And it's exciting, and she's 4, so she doesn't know much yet. But that's part of, and of course, everyone's like, oh, you bought a horse, when are you going to show it? It's like, she's 4, she's 3 months under saddle. I think it'll be at least 6 months before I'm really ready to compete. Now, I might take her to the show and let her look around, but that doesn't mean I'm going to compete her. So, it's important, that connection between the horse and the rider. I don't know if you saw on Facebook, but a couple of days ago, there was a picture of Isabella cleaning Bella Rose's stall, the night before they were going to transport back. Yeah, and people are like, well, she spends a lot of time with her horses because it's important for the communication. They have to know you and trust you. Well, I can tell you the deal with that. I flew with my horses, but there's usually only one space on the plane for a human, okay? They have, most of the airlines that transport horses they have two passenger seats, and one is usually occupied by a vet or a vet tech, or someone who is technically covering the insurance aspect for the airline, and then one other horse handler gets to go. So, if you're on a plane with all the Olympic horses, then only one person is allowed to go. The person with the most seniority is probably going to pull that slot. So, yeah, it's really, I love flying with my horses because you can go back and you can check on them and you make sure they're drinking and they know you're there. Yeah, it is awesome. But on a cargo plane, that's all the space there is. Interestingly, the first time I flew with my horse to Germany, it was a half passenger plane and half cargo plane. So we sat, and my friend went with me, and we sat up in the passenger compartment, and the stewardesses had a little key, and they could open the door between the passenger compartment and the cargo compartment, and of course they stole all of the carrots off of all of the first class salads. So that we could go back into the back. They let us in the back. Can we go too? Of course you can come too. So they brought their purloined carrots, and we all went to the back to pet the horses. It was really pretty funny. Yeah. So, but the cargo plane is I tell you, if you can get the passenger spot on a cargo plane, that's the way to go. Because it's a reclining seat. Oh, and there's all the food or drink or whatever you want. I mean, it's not elaborate, but you can snack or drink or, there's a bathroom. Because there's a pilot and a co-pilot and a steward who, supplies their needs. So there's 5 people on the plane, so it's a heck of a deal. I know. And I was kind of going, I don't know if I want to do that. But once I did it, it's like, oh yeah, it's the only way to go. Yeah. Because it was nice, with a half of the, regular people flight and half cargo. But there wasn't as much space. And those seats don't recline. Like the ones on the cargo plane come with a pillow and a blanket. I'm like, oh yeah, 9 hours in the air, I'll be snoozing. So, in fact, in the last flight back, the woman who was doing the vet check thing for the airline was like, you want to come with me? I was like, I think you got it. I'm going to sleep. See ya. She's like, oh, you've done this before. Uh-huh. It's all right. So when Ollie's feeling like he's warmed up enough and looked at everything enough, and we might let him look at all these horses walking by. I was like, but that's normal because, I don't know that they don't usually walk through there. Oh, there we go. See, and that's Ashley on the paint, and she's like 6, and Zaya on the little black pony, and she's maybe almost 8, 7 or 8. So, and we have several other ladies who bring their kids from time to time, and they all get along pretty well. So it's a possibility that if you needed to, you could bring your kid. We would coordinate it with other kids who were going to be here. It wouldn't just be a surprise, I'm here with my kid. Oh, whoops, there's nobody else here. But it's a possibility. All right, so do you find that Ollie is a little stiffer in one direction than the other? Okay. So if we were going to start, we would want possibly to start to the left. Do you know why he's a little stiffer to the right? Okay. Yeah, that's kind of a coordinated thing. It's usually a diagonal pair. But part of the deal, so if you go to a friend's house and she says, oh, you want to ride my horse, and you've never ridden a horse before, I'll give you a general rule of thumb. This applies about 95% of the time. It's about 100%, but most of the time, horses are softer on the side that the mane falls to because the muscles on the other side of the neck are stronger and they push the mane to the softer side. So, yeah. So, when you look at a horse that you haven't ridden and somebody asks you to ride it, and you get on, the plan is to trot first to the side the mane falls toward, because that would probably be the better trot side. So you want to kind of get a feel there and then see if you can take it to the other side. However, when you go to the canter, horses usually canter better on the stiffer side. So like I said, it's not 100%, but often, just sort of a general rule of thumb. So if you find yourself, somewhere and someone says, "Oh, you want to ride my horse?" You can say, "Sure," and then you have a clue as to where you want to start. So you don't have to, quiz them on things they may not understand or know. All right, so let's pick a circle somewhere, and I would suggest you make your circle maybe between E and D, or certainly not any closer than between S and R. And we'll do a little rising trot. And we're going to use your bending aids to get him to align his spine from his ears to his tail with the line, the arc of the circle. Good. Good, that looks great. Atta girl. So, we don't expect, great things from him in the first step. The guy that I was working with in Germany was like, let the horses start where they want to start. And then you can build the quality of the gait as they get loosened up and warmed up. And you can, go from there. But start where everybody's comfortable. Don't think you're going to come out with, Olympic gaits the first step out of the original walk. Good, so you find that he hangs on the left rein as well as the right rein. So what we're going to do while he's trotting and getting loosened up is I want you to turn your left thumb away from his neck a little bit. Make sure your left leg is near the girth and your right leg is a little back. So as you turn your left thumb away from it, I was going to say, you might have to move that over there. Turn your left thumb away from his neck and take your hand a little bit toward your knee while holding the outside rein. Okay, his neck is very mobile, so he can do this. You do not have to let go of the outside rein. You want to maintain the same feeling in your outside rein that you had before, but you want a little flexion, which means that up at the top of his neck, he's turned his head just a little bit more than the rest of his body is aligned in the arc of the circle. And you want to hold his head flexed a little more to the inside, then will be the arc until he lets go with his jaw. And you might have to hold it for a few minutes. And in fact, I've had a horse one time that it took him 45 minutes to let go. Right, so often what I do, if I have a horse that wants to go more than 2 or 3 times around, he's still locked in the jaw, I just put my hand behind my thigh. And it's not punitive, but it stabilizes your hand so that you give him a place to know that he can let go. Now, the moment that he lets go, you have to bring your hands together and ride him like that's how he always is. And then when he locks his jaw, then you have to flex him again until he lets go. So this is a German technique called showing the horse the way to the ground. Good. So you have to be very observant through the process, because the moment he lets go, you have to let go too. But the trick is, he has to let go first. And he goes, "Gotcha." Right, so wait until he's really let go, until you'll see his head will kind of wobble a little bit, and the inside of his neck will get really soft. Now, keep him trotting forward. Good, and if you need to put your hand behind your thigh, it doesn't bother me in the slightest. I understand my left arm's not that strong. Yeah, but he has to let go. He has to let go. And there are plenty of people who will tell you, take and give, but he'll wait for you to give every time. So this is a process that can take a little while. But the moment you feel him start to lock his jaw, then you have to ask him for flexion again. This is good. This is good. You're doing great. Atta girl. And this is not fun, but you have to win. Okay? It's a little bit of a ego thing. It's a who's in charge thing. Okay, so if he's sticky on the outside, he should be fairly soft on the outside rein. Okay, so then you need to just ride him forward a bit. Because the forward aspect of it helps him figure out that he has to let go. Good. 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 So if he stays soft for you for a circle or two and you're thinking this is pretty good, go on and let him walk. But keep the softness through the walk, through the transition. Yeah. Good. So he can even have a long rein for one of the circles. He can stretch around. As long as he stays soft in his jaw. So we want to reward him when he's doing what you want. When he goes, oh, I have to let go. Yeah, good plan. You let go, and I let go. And then you get a break.
They asked if they could come. Do you care if they come in?
No, you can come in. Yeah. Yes, this is a lesson, but just try to, ride around. We're mostly circling in the middle at the moment. Thank you for asking, ladies. So you're going to have a little company. They steer pretty well. Yeah. All right, so pick your reins up, and let's repeat to the left at the rise and trot. And the moment you notice him locking his jaw, you have to flex him until he lets go. And it's obviously a long-term habit. Did I turn my thing off again? This is turning off and on. Yes, I did. Okay, sorry. It went off for a minute, but I turned it back on. So this is a patience maker for you, because if you will stick with this until he will give you as many circles as you want without locking that jaw, then you can go do other things. But the moment he locks his jaw, you have to go back to the circle, okay? And inside leg, good. Because he has to give to your inside leg and coming into the outside rein, and the outside rein needs to be elastic but steady, so that he knows where to find you. Yeah. You're getting a nice arc through his body too. It's like sometimes I don't pick up my hind foot and it trips. Yeah, it is. Does he get a little sticky in his stifle? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, the only reason I say that is because I haven't really watched him get stuck yet, but it's possible that if his stifle is a little sticky, that he might pick it up just a little slowly, and then it wouldn't advance far enough, and then he would catch the toe. So that might be something, and there's a variety of different things that can be done for that, and of course a wide range of prices to go with that. Some of them are much less invasive than others. Good. So when he's soft and staying soft for several, a circle or two, then let him walk again. Yeah. Good. So the challenge is you want him to understand that he needs to stay soft in the trot and through the transitions. Good. So do you feel that was an improvement over the first set of circles? All right. Let's go the other way. Because the other thing I noticed, and I think you'll see this on your video, is that his quality of his trot improved as he got softer. He was swinging more over his back, and he had a little bit softer, longer step. So the experience that I've had with my horse, who likes to lock his left jaw, and occasionally his right jaw, is that when the jaw is locked, everything else is tight. So as soon as I can get him, by way of this exercise, to let go in his jaw, everything gets softer. And then the quality of the work improves, and then he's happier, and I'm happier. I mean, it was, when I finally committed to myself to just say, look, I don't care, we're not doing anything. He was already trained at the Grand Prix and already competing and doing well at the Grand Prix. But he'd had an accident, so he had a couple of months off, and I just thought to myself, when I bring him back this time, we're going to fix this lockjaw thing. So I took the first week for sure that he was really back in regular work, and that's all I did, was work to get him to let go of the jaw. And so the process is, when you turn your thumb away from his neck, he can feel the difference in the rein. So when you teach him, you turn your thumb away from his neck, and then you take your hand towards your knee, and if you have to, you lock your hand behind your thigh because you have to win. Okay, but you have to notice immediately when he lets go, so you let go as soon as he lets go. If he lets go, you let go. Over time, all you'll have to do is turn your thumb, and he'll go, oh, I know what's next. And he'll stop locking his jaw. So all you'll have to do is just shake your wrist a little bit, and he'll let go of his jaw. So it's a progression. When you tilt your thumb, it's a really nice initial thing, and it gives you a place over time to go. So, because even just shaking your wrist a little bit will soften the rein, especially as he understands that when I turn my thumb, by golly, you have to let go in your jaw. So, like I said, it's a progression of information. So you teach him that when you turn your thumb, the next thing is he's going to have to flex and let go. So that over time he goes, oh, she turned her thumb, I better let go now before I have to go into the position. Because it's not a harmful position, it's not hard, but it's not as pleasant as being in a good place. So let's try a little bit to the right. Okay, so even better. Even better, because your right leg, and play with keeping the whip in your right hand, and see, you might have to kind of choke up on the whip so that you're holding it a little lower on the stem of it, so you can turn your thumb, and you might have to take your hand a little away from his neck to turn your thumb with the whip in your hand. But you want him to acknowledge that your inside leg says you have to push into the outside rein. Yeah. And the general practice is to do this training in the trot because you have enough impulsion, because the forward aspect of it helps the horse to understand that he has to let go. So, and obviously over time you'll probably have to do it in the walk and the canter as well. But teach it to him in the trot because it's the most consistent gait. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, with impulsion that will make it clear to him that it's much easier to do this if he lets go in his jaw. So yeah, so your inside leg, yes, and you can support it with the whip just a little if you need to on his shoulder, so that he pushes into your left rein. And the thing for me, it was my horse's right shoulder to teach him to go to he had to go to the right rein. He loved to lean on the left rein. So I found, interestingly, I had to teach myself to hold the rein on the shoulder he didn't want to go to. So check in with your left hand, that your left arm, elbow, hand is making a commitment to hold the rein where he can find you, that you're not giving the left rein away. So it's like a dual purpose thing. He has to be soft from your inside leg, but you have to meet him on the outside rein. Just right forwards and ignore that. So you're just being a little petulant. We're going to ignore that because you got away with it before, but not this time. Unless he threatens to do something dangerous. As long as he's just being a little pissy. Sorry, but we're not taking pissy on today. We're just going to trot forward and be a good boy. Yeah. So horses. I love the title of Ollie Podolsky's book, My Horses, My Teachers, because they want to train you to ride them like they want to be ridden. And he has. So, at that point, you just have to kind of put your foot down and say, I'm going to hold the left rein. And you're going to yield your ribs to my right leg. So here we go. Right leg to left rein. So yeah, so you can use the whip a little. You can just lay it on your shoulder. You can tap him a little on the shoulder and say, hey, move away from my leg, move away from my knee. Come and meet me over here in this nice harmonious right left rein, where you're going to be able to carry yourself over there in your left rein. Yeah. Good, so just keep going. You're good. Yeah. And this is the lesson in patience, where you just have to kind of stick it out. And it's not much fun, but it pays off in such a big way in the long run. He's just fussing. I told you, I rode a horse for 45 minutes before he let go on his jaw. No, it's not. Because when he wins, you have to start over. And next time it will take longer. Exactly. So stick it out. And I'm happy to say, you're good. Just hang in there. Keep riding the trot. Keep posting. Keep saying, you're all right, buddy. Just let go of that right jaw. Meet me in the left rein. Yeah. Oh boy. Good. And when he does give and you bring your hands together, give him a little scratch on the neck. Say, good boy. Give him some positive reinforcement. So try to get a couple of circles where he's really soft, and if you have to, flex him again. And when you can get a couple of circles where he's working with you on this, then let him walk. But try to keep the softness through the transition to the walk. If you say, all right, we can walk, and he goes clunk, then we don't get to walk, because that was rude. This is not rocket science, and this is not hard. This is not hard for him. He's just complaining because he's used to doing it the other way. And changing habits is always a little challenging. Yes, ma'am. So, very elastic, left elbow, holding the contact. That was a huge insight for me when I went, I'm not holding the right rein, I want my horse to go there. Why is he not going there? Because there's nothing for him to go to. So you have to train your left elbow to be there for him. While your right leg is saying, I'm going to send him to you. And your right rein is saying, you're going to let go in that jaw, Bubba. Good. Yeah. Good. So set him up for the transition. When he's behaving himself, ride him from that right leg into the left rein through the transition into the walk. Yes, good. And then give him the right rein and pat him on the neck. Tell him what a good boy he is. He's like, oh my God, you're crazy. Yeah, buddy. Good, so let him walk around, stretch his neck, shake it out a little if he wants. And then we'll do it again. Yeah, because we have to do it until he goes, yes, ma'am. And I have a frozen left shoulder, but my husband likes to blame on my horse. I don't know that actually the whole shoulder is his fault, but certainly some tendonitis in my left elbow. Yeah, that's definitely his fault. So we can work on other things, but until you solve this issue, there's no point. Yeah. Exactly. And you just have to stick it out. You
I
need,
guess I don't trust myself always.
yeah, but you got it. You do feel it. You have to believe to achieve. Do you need water? Okay.
Almost like Ollie. I turn brighter.
Yeah, you're not too red.
I tend not to show in the summer because I just.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, we got a coolish day.
Yes.
Our cold front came through. Hooray!
Cold front.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
it's a Houston cold front. The temperature dropped 5 degrees. So we have to go back to the right and do the right trot one more time. And then, if he goes, oh, I remember this, I'm a good boy. So, if you go once or twice around and he's like stance off in the right jaw, then what we do is we move to a figure of 8 so that we can get it in both directions. And if you find that one side of the figure 8 is sticky, you stay there until it's soft. And then you continue with the figure 8. And then after the figure 8 is easy and you can keep the suppleness and the softness in the jaw in both directions, you can move to a 3-loop serpentine. So he has to buy in. He has to go, okay, I get it. You're going to hold me until I let go. Yeah. And then you say, yeah, that's a good boy. And then we can be soft together. Good. And then once he gives in, once he says, yes, ma'am, I get it. You're in charge. I can do this without my jaw lock. Then you can take it into other maneuvers. But you also have to stay very observant, which you already have a good start in, so that the moment he starts to lock his jaw, when you do other things, as you have noticed that he does, you have to go back to this. And right, exactly, like right now. Yeah. Okay, so tune it into your muscle memory. Teach your body to just, at a very subliminal level, notice when the jaw is locked. And that whole muscle memory thing is such a big deal. Such a big deal. That apparently was part of the deal with Simone Biles, that she was, people who like twist and jump and flip, they apparently get a thing called the twisties, which means that you lose control of your muscle memory. So if you're trying to do a really complicated twisting, turning thing, and you're trying to do it without muscle memory, you're really likely to get hurt. So smart on her to not put herself in a position to get hurt. Yes, ma'am. Good. So when he's cooperating, you get a couple of circles, and he's like being a good boy, then another walk transition. Yeah. But yeah, exactly. Yeah, girl. Good. And then a long rein, a big pat. So we want to set him up so that it makes sense to him to do what you asked. And he's going to get rewarded for letting go of his job.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was fixing a brush hog Missy's pasture, is it going to affect you, or would you like me to wait?
If you could wait, I think we'll probably be done pretty soon. We won't be very long. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, it's the beautiful Melody. She's so pretty in her bridle. So this horse that Erica just brought in is the 4-year-old daughter of the Grand Prix horse that Erica's been showing. Yeah.
We call Melody the angel baby.
Melody the angel baby. She's a very good 4-year-old.
Or as I say that, we shall do something sassy.
Yeah, that would be the kiss of death. She'll be really lively today. But one of the more lovely things about her is she got her mother's mare ears. So they're,
Yes.
like little radar dishes. Very expressive. Very expressive. All right, so, ready to try the figure of 8? All right. I think we're going to use this 2/3 of the ring, if you don't mind going to the far end.
Can do.
That'd be great. So you can start with the circle you were using in the middle, and Erica will be beyond you down there closer to A for her lunging.
If needed, I could take her out in the field for a bit too.
Yeah, we're just working on getting this, the lockjaw thing
Okay, cool.
out of gear. Yeah, good. Refresh, but he knows how to do it to the left. Good, and feel free anytime you feel like he's really working to do what you asked him to do. You can always give him, a half a circle walk break. Use the reward system to make him want to join you in the softness. So it's like, oh God, I let go and she let me walk. Yeah, good boy. Yeah, and he doesn't have to walk very long, but he gets a little break, catches breath. And working on making your transition soft is also so this is good on both of you. So he gets a little break and he gets to practice staying soft through his transitions. Good. So when everything feels like it's working, then you can cross the center line and come to the right. Okay, so, yes, so here we are. It's like, oh God, we're in a different part of the ring. I have to lock my jaw. So we're just going to take the time it takes. And that right hand is welcome to go behind your right thigh if necessary. Yeah. Just lock it behind your thigh. And you might have to let the rein out a tiny bit because it's a little further. Yeah. Because you don't need to crank his neck around your knee. He just has to be flexed enough that he's happier to let go than he is to be locked up. So no, you don't have to swing his nose all the way around to your knee. But just give yourself a little bit of a balance point so that he's not hurting you, that your arm doesn't give out before he gives in. I know, it's like, oh God. Yeah. Yeah. Stick it out. Push him from your right leg into the left rein. He has to fill out the left rein. So there's a consistent arc from about the middle of his neck to his tail. And then the upper third of his neck can be just a little more to the inside. Which is actually, it's a useful thing for a lot of things. I was riding in the clinic with Janet Foy, and she's like, your shoulder in looks really good, and if you'll make just a little bit more flexion, I think you're going to get a little softer, better response over his back. So this sort of flexion can come into play when you're working on more advanced things as well. So getting him to let go in the jawline and go, oh yeah, I have to go from the inside leg, yes, to the outside rein. Good. Good. So this is actually one of the hardest things that you'll ever have to do. Okay? So that's the good news. You have to stick it out until he gives in. Yeah. Good. And especially if you're getting tired and he's getting tired, if you get a half a circle where he's good, then go on and let him walk. Yeah, good. He's like, oh my God, she's become a tyrant. She used to give up. And then I had my own way. Oh man. I know, and so when I told you I was working on my horse with this, several years ago now, when I finally sort of bit the bullet and said, he just has to let go in the jaw. He just has to. And I was thinking, God, he's just going to be pissed all the time. Well, interestingly enough, once he figured it out, and like I said, I dedicated like most of the first week that he was really back into solid work. And the first 3 days were the worst. And after that he kind of went, oh, I see, you're not giving in. And as he got conditioned to working without his jaw locked, he got happier and happier and happier. It was kind of weird, actually. I was kind of shocked because I had expected him to go, oh, I'm working so hard, I'm really grumpy. But it was so much easier because he wasn't stiff all over. But he was like, oh, yeah, my muscles are moving, I'm good. I mean, it was like, the ears are flopping. So, you're looking at a happier horse here within a week.
I think even today I've noticed.
Yeah.
He was fighting me less.
Yeah.
Yes, he had his little moments.
Yeah.
But then I was
Oh, yeah. So the hard part is sticking with it
Yeah.
and observing when he starts to sneak back into locking that jaw. Because it will still be in there. Probably forever. But it'll be this much instead of this much. Okay? And you'll be able to do this and maybe make a half a circle or a quarter circle and you go, oh yeah, I have to let go.
I noticed on the left I was able to just a little bit turn instead of making it a big thing.
Right?
Yeah.
And it'll come and go.
Right.
Because we all have days where we're a little stiffer than other days. Or days where, if you work him really hard one day and you get on the next day and he's like, oh, I'm not going there.
Yeah.
So, just kind of use it judiciously and say, I understand you really are stiff. We're just going to loosen up and then we'll just have a trail ride.
Okay.
So you can mix it in with other aspects. You don't have to drill on it,
Okay.
but you might have to touch on it pretty much every day.
I was gonna say every ride.
Yeah,
Yeah.
every ride. Because it's no fun
Right.
for either one of you if he's locking his jaw,
Yeah. Well, then he'll be quicker at it
right?
and spend less time with that.
Exactly. So I do, actually with my horse, I do a lot of, when I'm walking, because they're both older. I have one who's 19 and one who's 25. So I walk a lot before I do anything else, because they're creaky, because they both did the Grand Prix for years and years. So I do a lot of serpentines, kind of like ribbon candy serpentines, where they're looping back, so that I really get them bending in the walk
Yeah.
before I go to anything else, and then they kind of get this opportunity to a little bit let go in the jaw
Okay.
at the walk too. And like I said, you'll probably have to work with him on it at the walk and the canter as well. But the trot is the best place, it's the most efficient place to get him familiar with the concept.
So obviously you need to get sense in the transition. Is that something, I know it's not correct, but can I use that same
Yes,
thought in the transition?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
'Cause I feel
Push
like he
him,
needs it. Yeah.
push him from your inside leg so that he stays here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And a little bit maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. And play with the half halts so that he stays softer through the half halts.
Okay.
Because then you can use the half halt to introduce the transitions.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I feel like with my outside rein, I'm either too much or not enough. Like I don't have that.
Yeah, it has to come from your elbow.
Yes, and I have those short little
Yeah.
stubby ones.
Okay, so hey, here, you're in good company. Hilda Gurney has like the shortest upper arm in the world, okay? so since she's riding these huge horses, and so she's like, so my arms are here, okay? Because the horse is huge, and my upper arm is very short, and it really is. It's like the song. So she says, so my arms are here because I want to keep a short enough rein that I can keep him here. So instead of, having my arms here because my upper arm is so short, she says they're out here, they're in front of me, but my elbow is still soft. So as long as your elbow is soft,
Okay.
and you can practice like with the bungee cord,
Okay.
get the feel of it's the same feeling, same feeling, same feeling. Or if you have a friend or maybe even your daughter will hold the reins and you can play the rein game.
Yeah.
So you keep the same weight in presumably the outside rein. Every now and then you have to soften the outside rein and then you want to keep the same weight the inside rein.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. All the things at once.
I know. So many body parts.
I just feel like sometimes I get fixated on one thing and then my brain has
Sure.
to,
Sure. So, but when you find that, and it happens to all of us, and you go, oh God, I'm kind of locked in on this particular idea, just to have a little mental checklist and say, but are my elbows still soft? Is my weight still, is my center of gravity still in my core? So if you put your thumb on your navel and your hand below that, that's your diaphragm. When you breathe here, you lower your center of gravity. When we're stressed, we breathe up here. Short, shallow breaths. When you breathe deeply from your diaphragm, it keeps your center of gravity that much closer to the horse. And it's much easier to keep your butt in the saddle. If he should trip or if he should, spook or, take a funny step, you're right there with him. It's much harder to lose your balance when your balance is there.
as my daughter's 4 and I'm guilty, I've been working on my abdominal. I had C-sections, so
Oh, sure they
I
did.
would say the last couple of years it's been totally different.
Yeah.
I'm like, where is it?
Yeah.
So I do work on those, but
Yeah. Hey, so, well, you know, crunches, of course, are good. The thing that I found, I don't do them nearly enough, is leg raises.
Because it's right here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so start even with your knees bent and just raise the lower half of your legs.
Yeah.
And then over time, you can raise the whole leg. You know, and if you raise it to like 45 degrees and then hold and then let them down, oh my God.
Because I feel like crunches get you here,
Yeah, they do. They're too high.
but
Yeah.
you okay. Okay.
But the leg raises, you know, and you can alternate leg raises, you know,
Yeah.
with your arms and anything. This is from Eckhart Miners, who was taught kinesiology, yes, in Germany, and he did a whole bunch of courses for riders, rider awareness, and anything that crosses the midline of your body fires neurons on both sides of your head. So any exercise, you know, march in place, or, you know, leg raises, anything, walking backwards, all of that, neurons on both sides, which makes you a little bit more available symmetrically.
Yeah.
So it's a cool thing to be aware of.
Okay.
So that's a good thing. And I'm thinking I'm going to show you one more thing,
Okay.
if I can keep this, because I think we got killed off the horse.
I know. That was hard on his brain and his body.
Oh God. I had to process, I had to think, and I had to work at the same time. Oh. Okay, so this, I'm not going to lend you. I'm going to use this. I had a friend who did a clinic at my mom and I did it with Davis. And she did this with all my students. And I was like, well, you need to do that. You need to know that I want to do it. So she did it to me. I found it really quite effective. So I've done it off and on for people since then. You're a good man, Ollie. Exactly.
Hopefully you're done.
Exactly. All right, that's going back. And then get back to me. So this is some of the things I was teaching for that I didn't bother to look at. Just making sure it's not.
Keep going.
Yeah, that's good. And then make it a little bit lower on the lower legs. Kind of a little bit higher. And then all right, so I'm going to leave that. And I want you to, just make sure you put something inside. I want you to just sit in there.
Okay.
You don't have to do anything. Sit like this. Sit up. You're going to lift your ribs above the hips so that you lift up like this. Okay. So I'm just going to leave that. When I do this, it's the neck will be worse. The horse will be hard. But see where you are here?
Yeah.
You know, you can pull on this all day long.
Yeah.
You can't hold it. This is where you hold it.
Okay.
You can't move too often.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you sit into here,
Right.
that's.
Okay, let me try it again. Let me try it really good. Okay. You caught me. Okay. Okay.
Oh, it's like on a seatbelt.
No, I guess not.
Yeah.
Okay.
So before I do this, bring those pieces of money on. So what is it like down the bottom? And then put that down. Does that feel different?
Yes.
Okay, so maybe some questions now.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so just exhale into your lower core. Stretch out. Yeah, the butt.
But see, that's where yeah.
But we have to strong tension, because when you ride that medium front across the diagonal,
I can't.
you can't slump, okay? So you have to be able to hold him from here and hold yourself up
Okay.
above that. If we want our horses to be strong in extension,
Yeah.
we have to be strong in extension.
Yeah. I do this. Like.
Yeah, we all do.
Yeah.
Stop. When we do that, we're going to push my hips up my wrist.
I know.
I can't move my hips at all.
See, when you tell me that, I don't notice it. I almost need to ride with something that.
Oh, I like but so, okay, working on the core muscles, because you have to feel like, and I wanted to show you also, since I'm standing there. So, when I rode in Germany, and I'm riding, you know, in the arena with all of the Germans, you kind of pick it up. You kind of ride like it, because you're watching it all the time. Okay, so then I came home, was home for a year, and I went back. And I was there for another 8 months. But one of the people who worked there, who was Roberta's assistant, came and did a couple of things. And she wrote some courses in addition to teaching. Perfect cover that was just like a little female course. Which is great because we're all women, not in the clinic. Where's to come? Well, you know, the man's hands are twice as high.
Yeah.
You know, and his legs come to like here, on him as well as on me. So, yes, he would come. It's $500 a ride, so maybe not. But Emma, much cheaper. I just saw a little female version of the horse. Sounds just like it. It's weird. So she got on some of the horses, and I was watching her, and I was like, oh yeah, the German seat. Oh, it's okay. So when you watch Americans ride this stuff, they're here. You're thinking, well, that looks pretty upright, huh?
Yeah.
I look vertical, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, the Germans ride here. Okay, so when they're here, everything is good. Because when you're here, your seat bones make an entirely different statement for the horse than they do when you're here. This is a little tentative, okay? And it's harder to get your hips to move as much as they need to move.
And I'm tight. That's why I get yelled at a lot.
So you know, things to open the hips, and things to help you be able to lift your ribs and make space between your hip and your ribs.
Yeah. Okay.
Because this has to be firm, but it has to be enough up that your hips can move. You don't want it to be too soft. It's called positive tension. It has to be mobile, but not floppy. Because that's what happens is that if you're too soft in the middle, you want it. Been there, done that. That video's in it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, me too.
So it's this positive tension thing that says I can keep this part of me quiet while this part of me, it's like, you know, it's like the duck in water. You know, top of the water, the duck is serene, and underneath the water, the duck. That's the bottom half. We're working here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and that's something similar to what I've seen before, and I just I like that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This was awesome.
Good.
I feel like that's something we've been missing. You know, just like you've been going and going, and there's this little piece that you're like, okay.
Yeah.
But then that's going to help our other ends and our other pieces where he tends to get stiff, right?
Everything.
Yeah.
And as you start working back into those movements, once he's on board, he's getting soft.
Right.
If he starts to lock up, you have to notice.
Yeah.
And immediately, circle.
Okay.
You know, and if you have to make it 20-minute circle with 2 or 3 to get him there, and then you go back into the movement where you left off.
Okay. Okay.
So you build this progression thing. It's like here, here,
Yeah.
and then here. Oh, and then sometimes it's just a little
Yeah.
and it's not a huggy thing. It's just a little vibration in the wrist that says, hey, soft. Good. I mean, you can keep